It was a warm, bright morning in Atlanta, the kind of day where the sky looks like a fresh painting and the birds won't shut up. For most people, it was just another Tuesday, but for Marcus Tillman, it was the day everything fell apart. He was 27 years old, tall and strong, with a quiet smile that made people feel safe. Marcus worked construction, stayed out of trouble, and loved hard. And the woman he loved, Maya Dawson, was the one who would ruin him. Maya was beautiful and clever. Her smile could light up a room, and she always seemed 2 steps ahead of everyone. Marcus met her at a party, and by their third date, he was already talking about marriage. But there was something else too, something dark behind her charm. People saw it, but Marcus didn't. They lived together in a small house in East Point. Life wasn't perfect, but Marcus thought they were happy, until the night the police kicked down his door. It was 11:47 p.m. when the sirens showed up. Red and blue lights flooded the street like a crime scene on TV. Neighbors peeked through curtains. Marcus was in bed watching a game. Maya was in the kitchen making tea. Suddenly, the door crashed open. SWAT officers stormed in, shouting. Marcus froze. Guns were pointed at him. He was yanked from bed, slammed to the floor, cuffed. "What the hell is going on?" he shouted. But no one answered. In the corner, Maya screamed. She cried and asked what was happening, but not once did she look at Marcus. That would haunt him for years. Down at the station, they told him everything. Murder, a drug deal gone wrong, a body in the trunk of his car. "What body?" Marcus shouted. They said the victim was a known dealer. They said Marcus's fingerprints were everywhere. They said Maya told them everything. He laughed. He thought it was a joke. Until she walked into the interrogation room with a lawyer. She wouldn't even look at him. The trial was fast. The evidence was strong. The jury was convinced. Marcus was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison for murder and drug trafficking. He cried out in court, begging for Maya to tell the truth. But she didn't. He went to prison angry and confused. He didn't understand how she could betray him. For the first 2 years, he wrote her letters. Then he stopped. A few years later, he heard something that made his blood freeze. Maya had married a woman. Not just any woman. His lawyer. The one who stood next to her during the trial. The one who told him to take a plea deal. The one who promised to fight for him. They moved to Miami, started a real estate business, and lived in a waterfront condo. It all made sense now. They had set him up. 15 years later, 2024, Marcus walked out of prison on a hot August morning. He had served 15 years, released early for good behavior. His hair was grayer, his body thinner, but his heart was full of rage. He had nothing left, no family, no job, no peace. But he had time and a plan. He got a cheap motel room outside Atlanta, quiet, hidden. He spent days searching online. They were easy to find. Maya and her wife, Danielle, still in Miami, still living good, smiling in photos, flashy cars, fancy vacations, like nothing ever happened. He knew what he had to do. October 1st, 2024, Miami, Florida. He arrived in the city like a ghost, took a bus, wore sunglasses and a hoodie, paid cash. He watched them from across the street. He knew their schedule, when they left for work, when they went jogging. And one night, he broke into their condo. He waited. When they came home, he stepped out of the shadows. They screamed. He didn't. He shot Maya in the chest, then turned to Danielle. She begged, said she didn't know. He didn't believe her. He pulled the trigger. The double homicide shook the Miami community. 2 high-profile women killed in their luxury home. No signs of forced entry, nothing stolen, but the crime wasn't random. Detective Julian Knox was assigned to the case. He was 58, 1 year from retirement, and known for being sharp. Old school, but deadly smart. He'd solved more murders than anyone else in his unit. When he saw the scene, he knew it wasn't a robbery. He saw something else, a message. There were no fingerprints, no security footage. But something didn't sit right with him. He looked into Maya's past. He looked into Danielle's, and he found it. Marcus Tillman, released 2 months ago, convicted for murder in 2009. Maya Dawson testified against him. Danielle Price was the lawyer on the case. Now both were dead. It wasn't a coincidence. Detective Knox knew he had to find Marcus, but he also had a feeling this case was deeper than anyone knew. Detective Julian Knox sat at his desk, staring at the crime scene photos for the 10th time. His office was cluttered, coffee cups, case files, old case plaques, and a dusty fan that barely worked. He hadn't slept much. 2 women were dead, and something about this case itched at him like an old wound. He flipped through the victims' files again. Maya Dawson, 39 years old. Danielle Price Dawson, 42 years old. They were successful, powerful, and beloved in their community. Maya ran a nonprofit for ex-convicts. Danielle was a lawyer turned real estate developer. They seemed like the perfect couple, but Knox knew better. No one was perfect. He lit a cigarette, even though it was against the rules. No one dared stop him. Chief says the mayor wants updates every hour, a young officer said, peeking into his office. Tell the mayor to go solve it himself, Knox replied, blowing smoke toward the ceiling. He pulled out a manila folder he'd been holding back on. It was old, yellowed with time. Convicted in 2009 for murder and drug trafficking. Sentenced to 25 years, served 15th. Released August 6, 2024. Currently unaccounted for. Knox read every page. Something felt off. There was a name that came up again and again in that old file. Maya Dawson. She was the star witness. Her testimony sealed Marcus's fate. Danielle was his lawyer, an unusually cold one, according to court notes. And somehow, months after Marcus was locked away, Maya and Danielle were photographed together in Mexico, then again in Italy. And by 2013, they were married. That's not coincidence. That's motive. Knox called the parole office in Georgia. Marcus hadn't checked in since August 15th. That was a violation. He contacted the motel where Marcus had stayed. The room was cleared out 3 weeks ago. Gone, like a ghost. The condo was sealed off, but Knox still had access. He walked through it again slowly. He looked at every wall, every photo frame. The couple was happy, at least in public. Designer clothes hung in the closet. A wedding photo sat cracked on the kitchen counter, likely knocked over in the struggle. He paused, then noticed something small near the baseboard under the window. A single button. Not from a woman's outfit. This was from a men's jacket. Maybe military, or prison-issued. He bagged it. He checked the blood splatter again. The shooter had known how to aim. 2 quick chest shots. No signs of hesitation. It wasn't sloppy. It was focused. It was revenge. He met with Tamika Jones, Maya's longtime friend and assistant. She ever mentioned Marcus Tillman? Knox asked. Tamika looked down. Not really. She hated talking about the past. But sometimes I caught her crying late at night. She'd say things like, he didn't deserve it. I thought she was talking about her dad or something. Knox leaned in. Did she ever say why she did it? Why she testified? Tamika hesitated. She said she had no choice, that someone told her to set him up. I thought it was just stress. I didn't ask. Someone? Knox repeated. Who? Tamika shook her head. She never said, but she was scared, even after all these years. That was something. Knox called in a favor from a buddy in Georgia Corrections. They found the name of a man Marcus got close to in prison, Ricky Sells, released last year, living in Tallahassee. Knox drove out the same day. He found Ricky at a barbershop. Marcus, Ricky said, acting surprised. Man, he's out. That's all I know. Don't lie to me, Knox growled. Ricky sighed. Look, all I know is Marcus was obsessed with the past. He talked about it all the time. Said he was set up. Said the people who did it were smiling on magazine covers while he rotted in hell. Did he ever mention killing them? Not directly, but he said, when I get out, I'm going to make him feel what I felt. That was all Knox needed to hear. He added Marcus to the most wanted list, put his photo on every street post, every bus station, every police radio. But something still felt wrong. If Marcus killed them in revenge, why now? Why not years ago? He had been out since August. That's almost 2 months. Why wait? And why leave no trail? Unless he wasn't done yet. Knox stared at the corkboard in his office. 2 victims, 1 missing ex-con, and 1 unfinished story. He circled the word set up in red, then wrote underneath it, why? Detective Julian Knox stood under the dull fluorescent lights, flipping through old court records. The building smelled of mildew and dust, the kind of place people forgot existed, unless you were hunting ghosts from 15 years ago. He had a theory. Something was buried in Marcus Tillman's trial. Something ugly. He found the original trial transcript, a thick binder filled with testimonies, objections, and exhibits. He didn't just skim, he studied. The prosecution's star witness, Maya Dawson. Her testimony was emotional, convincing, too convincing. She said Marcus sold drugs, that she saw him shoot a man in a warehouse, that he threatened her if she didn't stay silent. No physical evidence, just her word. And one blurry security video that the defense never even got a full copy of. Knox frowned. That's sloppy, he muttered. Then something else stood out. Danielle Price, defense attorney. She didn't question Maya aggressively. She didn't call key witnesses who could have helped Marcus. She barely put up a fight. In fact, Knox found multiple complaints against her during that year. Poor representation, missed court dates, even rumors of a conflict of interest. One complaint came from Marcus's cousin, Jalen. My cousin's lawyer is working with the DA. She told Marcus to take a plea. He said no. Now she's setting him up. The complaint was dismissed, never followed up. Knox wrote the name Jalen Tillman on a fresh notepad, then underlined it twice. Jalen was a mechanic in Orlando. His arms were covered in grease, but he remembered everything. I told y'all back then, he said. Danielle didn't work for Marcus. She worked for herself. Or maybe for Maya. I don't know. What makes you say that? Knox asked. Jalen leaned on a rusted car hood. You ever see someone look guilty before they even speak? That was Maya. When she took the stand, she didn't look scared. She looked sorry, like she knew she was about to lie. Knox raised an eyebrow. Why lie? Because they wanted Marcus gone. He had dirt on both of them. Real dirt. Like what? Jalen looked around and lowered his voice. Maya used to run packages for Marcus. Not drugs, money. She was in it deep. Danielle? She was messing around with a married judge. The same judge who signed off on Marcus's sentence. That hit hard. Judge Stanley Merriman. Now dead stroke, 2018. Of course. Marcus told me he knew secrets, Jalen said, but he never wrote them down. He said keeping them in his head was safer. Knox stared at him. Did he ever talk about revenge? Not at first, but after 10 years inside? Yeah. He said if he ever got out, they'd pay. Not just with words. Back in Miami, Knox visited the courthouse where Danielle once worked. He asked for her old case files. Most were routine, but one stuck out. A property fraud case. Danielle represented a man who embezzled over $300,000. She helped him get off with 6 months probation. That man? Lloyd Barker. Knox dug further. Lloyd Barker was an investor in a nonprofit run by Maya Dawson before she shut it down mysteriously in 2012. Follow the money. He traced the nonprofit's final tax return. It listed an expense, $75,000 to consulting services. No name, no address. Fake. Knox returned to the station and found an envelope waiting on his desk. No name, no return address. Inside, a prison letter, written by Marcus Tillman, dated January 5th, 2023. It read, "They lied. They took everything. I stayed quiet for 13 years. But I remember. I remember what she said to me in that hallway. I'm sorry, Marcus, but if you talk, we both go down. She made me the villain. Danielle made sure I stayed there. But you can only bury the truth for so long." No signature, but it matched his handwriting on prison intake forms. That confirmed it. Marcus had been planning something long before he got out. That night, Knox couldn't sleep. He replayed everything, then remembered the button he found under the window at the murder scene. He sent it to forensics. The lab confirmed it came from a Georgia State prison-issued coat. They also found traces of cigarette ash on it. Not unusual, except Marcus was known for one specific brand in prison, Redwood Golds. The same ash was found on the living room carpet near Maya's body. He smoked before killing them. Cool, calculated, no panic. Then Knox found one last thing. A voicemail left on Danielle's burner phone, sent the night before the murders. "You think I forgot? You think 15 years makes it right? You were supposed to protect me. You both left me to rot. Tomorrow, we even the score." Knox leaned back in his chair, eyes bloodshot, heart racing. Marcus Tillman was alive, and he'd already killed twice. But something still didn't fit. Why leave the voicemail? Why leave evidence? It was almost like he wanted to be found. Detective Julian Knox barely slept. The voicemail from Marcus echoed in his mind. The man had spent 15 years behind bars for a crime that now looked like a setup. Now he was out, and two people were dead. Maya Dawson and Danielle Price. He had a gut feeling Marcus wasn't finished. Knox poured himself a coffee, then checked the latest reports. Forensics confirmed it. Fingerprints at the murder scene matched Marcus Tillman. No gloves, no attempt to hide them. That bothered Knox. "This guy's smart," he muttered. "Too smart to leave his prints, unless he wanted us to find him." Was Marcus planning something bigger? Was this part of a message? He decided it was time to hunt the hunter. Marcus had been out for 5 months before the killings. Knox met with Officer Carla Reyes, who supervised his parole. "He never missed a check-in," she said, "always polite, quiet, mostly stayed in his halfway house on Lincoln Street." "Did he ever talk about Maya or Danielle?" "No," she said, "but he asked about gun laws in Florida during one visit. I told him ex-cons can't legally carry." That set off an alarm. "Do you know if he bought one anyway?" Reyes looked uncomfortable. "We don't track purchases, just behavior." Knox nodded. "Did he seem angry?" She hesitated. "Not angry, just tired, like he'd seen too much and didn't trust anyone." That sounded like a man with a plan. Knox visited Marcus's old room. It was small, barely 10 feet wide, with one window and a wooden desk. The bed was made. A Bible lay beside it, underlined and marked with sticky notes. Next to the Bible was a composition notebook. Bingo. Inside the notebook, sketches, names, places, arrows connecting faces. Maya, Danielle, Judge Merriman, Lloyd Barker. Each name had a red X through it, except one. Lewis Carrington, a name Knox hadn't seen before. Under it, they paid him to lie. He knows everything. Lewis Carrington was easy to find. He worked as a mall security guard. Bald, mid-50s, looked nervous the moment Knox approached. "I'm not saying anything without a lawyer." Knox showed him the notebook. "You were a witness in Marcus Tillman's trial." Carrington looked down. "I did what I was told." "What does that mean?" Lewis sighed. "Maya paid me to say I saw Marcus with a gun the night before the murder. I never saw him at all. She gave me $5,000. Knox's pulse raced. Why lie? She said he threatened her, said he was dangerous and already had a record, said if I helped her, it'd save lives. And Danielle Price? She was the one who told me exactly what to say, word for word. Another piece of the puzzle. Knox had what he needed, proof of a conspiracy, but Marcus didn't wait for justice. He took it himself. Now Knox feared he might still be out there, looking for Lewis next. Knox gathered the team. Marcus Tillman was framed. Maya and Danielle helped cover it up. Now they're dead. We believe Marcus has one more name on his list, Lewis Carrington. Captain Shaw leaned forward. We need to get to Carrington first. I've already arranged protection, Knox said. But Marcus isn't hiding. He wants us to follow the trail. He's not just killing people. He's making a statement. What kind of statement? Another officer asked. Knox tapped the whiteboard. Every person who betrayed him was part of a system. The law, the courts, the streets. Marcus is trying to send a message that the justice system doesn't protect the innocent, it destroys them. And now he's judge and executioner. Knox nodded. But we're not done yet. I believe there's one final stop. He drew a circle around the last clue in the notebook. The basement, October 20th. What's that mean? Shaw asked. I don't know, Knox replied. But Marcus does. Days passed. No sign of Marcus. No sightings. Carrington stayed under protection, moved to a secure location. Knox felt uneasy. Marcus wasn't impulsive, he was deliberate, and he was waiting for something. Then on the morning of October 20th, a call came in, a break-in at an abandoned church on the outskirts of Miami. No witnesses. One security camera, blurry, but it showed a tall man in a hood walking toward the basement door. The basement was cold, dusty, damp. Knox walked in with his flashlight. On the wall was a message written in red marker. The truth lives in the dark. On the floor, a cell phone. Knox picked it up. It automatically played a video. Marcus's face filled the screen. "I know you're watching, detective," he said. "You followed the trail. You saw the lies. The courts betrayed me. My friends betrayed me. So I gave them what they gave me, judgment. I'm not a monster. I just stopped being a victim." Then he smiled. "But don't worry, I'm not done yet." Detective Julian Knox held the phone in his hand, staring at the final frame of Marcus's video message. His face calm, cold, calculated. Marcus wasn't hiding. He was leading them somewhere. And now the trail pointed to one person left standing. Lewis Carrington. Knox turned to Officer Ramirez. "We need to move Carrington again. Quietly. No phones. No patterns. Marcus is watching us." Ramirez nodded and made the call. Lewis Carrington paced nervously inside the small windowless room. A single light bulb hung from the ceiling. Officers took turns guarding the door outside. When Knox arrived, Carrington jumped to his feet. "Is he coming for me?" Knox nodded slowly. "You're the last one." "I didn't think he'd go this far," Carrington said, voice shaking. "It was just one lie. 15 years ago." "One lie that destroyed his life," Knox replied. "You helped put an innocent man in prison." Carrington dropped into a chair, sweating. "What do I do now?" "You cooperate," Knox said. "Tell me everything. Dates, names, bank accounts. We'll put you in witness protection." "But will that stop him?" Knox didn't answer. Knox sat alone reviewing the original trial files. Marcus's alibi was shaky, but there was no physical evidence. Just 3 statements: Maya, Danielle, and Carrington. Now all 3 had been proven false. He stared at a photo of Marcus's face at age 25, fresh out of prison for a minor drug charge. Back then, he looked full of life, hope. Now at 40, Marcus looked like a ghost with a mission. The guard on duty blinked at the screen. A black van passed the alley behind the safe house. Slowed, stopped, then drove away. He didn't report it. By morning, that would be a mistake. Carrington was gone. No sign of forced entry. No broken windows. No blood. Just gone. Officer Ramirez stood outside, shaking his head. "We checked the whole perimeter. No sign of a struggle. No sounds. It's like he vanished." Knox clenched his jaw. "Check the cameras again and trace that van from last night." They did. The plates were fake. The driver wore gloves and a hoodie, and the van hadn't been seen since. Knox stared at the map pinned to the wall. Red pins marked every location connected to the case. The halfway house, the courthouse, Maya and Danielle's home, and now the church. But something was off. Knox pulled out the notebook from Marcus's room again. At the back of the notebook were numbers, coordinates. He typed them into Google Maps. A cabin in Big Cypress National Preserve. A place where the law didn't go often. Swampy, isolated, perfect for disappearing or doing something terrible without being stopped. He called the captain. "I know where Marcus took him." Knox arrived with a small SWAT team. They approached the cabin quietly. Guns raised, heartbeats steady. No movement. Then a voice from inside. "I've been waiting." Knox signaled to hold fire. He stepped forward, weapon lowered. "Marcus?" The door opened slowly. Marcus Tillman stood in the doorway, hands raised, calm expression. Inside, Lewis Carrington was tied to a chair, alive, gagged, scared out of his mind. Marcus spoke softly. "I didn't kill him. I wanted to, but I didn't." Knox blinked. "Why not?" Marcus looked at him, almost peaceful. "Because if I killed him, I'd be no better than the people who ruined me. I had to see what I would do when the choice was real, and now I know." SWAT entered and secured Carrington. Knox cuffed Marcus himself. "You could have walked away." Marcus smiled. "I already did. The moment I chose not to kill him, I walked away from who they made me into. Knox didn't respond. He just looked at the man in front of him. Broken, whole, guilty, innocent, everything all at once. Marcus was in holding, quiet, cooperative. The DA was reviewing all charges. He might face time again, but the public already knew what happened. News stations called him the wronged man. Some saw a vigilante, others saw a victim. Knox saw a man lost in between. Justice failed Marcus Tillman, and in seeking his own version of justice, he became both criminal and victim. This case is a reminder that the truth often hides behind the people we trust the most, and the system meant to protect it. Detective Julian Knox. The courtroom was packed, every seat filled. Reporters crammed into corners. Cameras buzzed outside. Everyone had come to see the man who spent 15 years behind bars, who came out and then killed the two people who lied to put him there. Marcus Tillman stood silently at the defendant's table. No chains, no handcuffs. Calm. Next to him, defense attorney Clara Mitchell, known for defending impossible cases, adjusted her glasses. At the prosecution table, Assistant District Attorney Reuben Parks laid out his notes. He looked confident, but tired. Judge Monroe walked in, heavy and slow, and everyone stood. His voice echoed. "We are here for the trial of Marcus Tillman, charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. How does the defendant plead?" Clara stood. "Not guilty, Your Honor." Gas whispered through the courtroom. Not guilty. He admitted to it. Everyone saw the video. He turned himself in, but Clara Mitchell had a plan. Ada Parks opened. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this man, Marcus Tillman, was given his freedom, and within 5 months, he used it to take 2 lives. He planned the murders of Maya Dawson and Danielle Price. He bought the tools. He watched them. He broke into their home. He ended their lives. This was not self-defense. This was revenge." He sat down, confident. Then Clara stood. "What if I told you that the system that locked Marcus up was rigged? That the witnesses lied? That Marcus spent 15 years in a cage for a murder he did not commit, while the real ones lived in peace? And when the truth came out, there were no arrests, no charges, no justice. So Marcus did what the system never did. He acted." She paused, staring at the jury. "This is not just about murder. It's about betrayal, about truth, and the cost of losing everything." Knox took the stand with a heavy heart. Ada Parks questioned him first. "Detective Knox, did the defendant confess to the murders of Maya Dawson and Danielle Price?" "Yes." "Did he show remorse?" Knox hesitated. "Not in the traditional way, but he was clear about why he did it." "And did you find the third victim, Lewis Carrington, alive in a remote cabin?" "Yes." "Was he harmed?" "No." "Thank you." Clara stood. "Detective Knox, did you find evidence that Marcus was wrongfully convicted in 2009? "Yes, all 3 witnesses admitted to fabricating statements. There was no physical evidence against Marcus back then." "Did the state reopen the original murder case?" "Number. But I recommended it. Would you say Marcus was treated fairly by the justice system?" Knox paused. "Number, he wasn't." Whispers moved through the courtroom. Clara nodded. No further questions. Carrington walked in, neck brace on, hands shaking. He looked like a ghost. Parks went first. "Mr. Carrington, did the defendant kidnap you?" "Yes." "Did he threaten to kill you?" Carrington's voice cracked. "He tied me up. He stared at me for hours. I thought I was going to die." "Did he say anything about the past?" "He said he wanted me to feel what he felt, trapped, alone." Clara stood next. "Mr. Carrington, did you give false testimony in the 2009 trial?" Carrington looked down. "Yes." "Did you help Maya and Danielle frame Marcus Tillman?" "Yes." "Why?" "They paid me. They said it was the only way to get rid of him." Clara turned to the jury. No further questions. Parks stepped forward, serious. "We are a nation of laws. We cannot excuse murder, even when the killer has been wronged. Marcus Tillman took justice into his own hands, and 2 people are dead because of it. Then Clara spoke. Marcus Tillman lost everything. His youth, his family, his future. And when he came out, no one was held responsible. He acted because no one else did. This was not a serial killer. This was not random. It was calculated, yes, but it was a message. The law failed. The system failed. And Marcus is now on trial, not just for what he did, but for surviving it all. She sat down. The courtroom was still. Has the jury reached a verdict? The judge asked. Yes, Your Honor. A woman stood with a slip of paper in her hand. For the charge of first-degree murder in the death of Maya Dawson, we find the defendant guilty. For the charge of first-degree murder in the death of Danielle Price, we find the defendant guilty. Marcus didn't flinch. Clara closed her eyes for a second. Judge Monroe sighed. Sentencing will be in 2 weeks. The courtroom was silent. Judge Monroe looked straight at Marcus. You were wrong, Mr. Tillman, deeply, shamefully, and still, you made a choice. You killed. And for that, you must face the consequences. He banged the gavel. Life in prison, no parole. Marcus nodded, just once. As guards came to take him, he turned to Clara. Thank you for giving me back my name. She smiled, just slightly. Justice, she whispered, isn't always clean. It had been 5 days since Marcus Tillman was sentenced to life in prison. The city buzzed with protests. Social media was flooded with his name. Justice for Marcus trended. Streets were painted with murals. A man once forgotten had become a symbol. But inside the Miami-Dade Police Department, Detective Julian Knox sat in silence. He stared at a file no one else cared to reopen. The 2009 case, the murder of Terrell James, Marcus's best friend. It haunted him. The confessions from Maya, Danielle, and Lewis felt too clean, too perfect. He was certain they lied, but something still didn't add up. Knox picked up his phone. Officer Medina, meet me at the evidence locker. We're pulling every file from the Terrell James case. We missed something. I can feel it. Thick dust coated the boxes. Knox wore gloves as he pulled out folders, crime scene photos, and interview recordings. Officer Medina flipped through a stack of old witness statements. Hey, you see this? She said. Knox leaned over. It was a signed statement from April 20th, 2009 by a woman named Erica Mendez, a neighbor who lived 3 doors down from where the murder happened. Her words jumped off the page. I saw a man run from the house around 3:15 a.m. He was white, wore a gray hoodie, and had a limp. Not the man they showed on TV. Knox blinked. Why was this never used in court? He flipped through the prosecutor's notes. Erica's statement had been labeled unreliable and marked for exclusion. Who ordered this? He asked. Medina checked. A DA, Craig Ellis. Knox's eyes narrowed. Craig Ellis, a young prosecutor back then, now a retired judge. Let's go talk to Erica, Knox said. If she's still alive, she might have the real truth. Erica Mendez lived in a small nursing home. Her memory was fading, but her eyes were sharp. Knox sat beside her, voice calm. Ms. Mendez, do you remember what you saw in April 2009? She nodded slowly. Yes, it was loud. I looked out my window. I saw a white man run out the front door. He was limping. I told the police, but they said I was confused. Did you recognize him? Knox asked. Her lips trembled. I didn't know his name, but I saw him again, once, at a political fundraiser 2 years later. He was a campaign aide for a young DA. He walked with the same limp. Knox sat up straight. Do you remember the name of the DA? Craig Ellis. Knox couldn't sleep, couldn't think straight. The pieces were falling into place. Craig Ellis, the man who helped put Marcus away. A rising star who ignored key evidence, who dismissed a witness that didn't fit the story. And now, maybe worse, Knox requested access to Craig's campaign records. That's when the last piece fell into place. The man with the limp had a name, Thomas Belling. He worked for Ellis during his campaign. He had a long juvenile record sealed by the court until now. 2 arrests for aggravated assault in his teens. 1 case dropped. The other sealed after a deal was struck with Ellis, who was assistant DA at the time. Knox's hands trembled. Holy hell, he muttered. He picked up the phone. Call the state attorney. We're reopening the Terrell James case and issue a warrant for Thomas Belling. Immediately, the news exploded across Florida. Breaking: Miami-Dade reopens 2009 murder case that led to wrongful conviction of Marcus Tillman. Thomas Belling was arrested in Tennessee trying to flee. He confessed after 2 hours of questioning. "I didn't mean to kill him. It was a drug deal gone wrong. Craig told me if I stayed quiet, he'd protect me." The truth was ugly, and worse, it was buried on purpose. Marcus Tillman had spent 15 years in prison for a crime committed by a man the system protected. Clara Mitchell walked into the cold visiting room. Across the table sat Marcus. Calm as ever, she slid a document across the table. "A judge signed your release order. You're going home." Marcus didn't speak for a long moment. Then, "You're serious?" "Dead serious," the real killer confessed. "The case has been overturned. You're a free man again, Marcus." He looked down at his hands. "Too late for Maya and Danielle. Too late for Terrell. But maybe not too late for me." She smiled. "You're more than a symbol now. You're living proof that the truth can still win." Detective Julian Knox stood at the podium. He cleared his throat. 15 years ago, Marcus Tillman was wrongfully convicted of murder. This week, we arrested the real killer, and the state has issued a full exoneration. But this is not just about one man. This is about a system that failed, a prosecutor who silenced evidence, a cover-up that cost a man his life, freedom, and peace. To Mr. Tillman, we owe you more than an apology. We owe you change. And today, that change begins. Flashbulbs popped. Reporters shouted questions. But Marcus wasn't there. He had already left town. Marcus Tillman sat on a quiet porch, sipping coffee, watching the sunrise. He had no plans, no interviews, no speeches.